Today we're making 3 fun flavor variations on the classic cinnamon roll. My name is Tessa and I'm from handletheheat.com, where I love to share sweet treats with a sprinkling of baking science, and I've teamed up with Red Star Yeast to bring you today's video. This is actually going to be this month's baking challenge recipe. If you're interested in joining in on my monthly baking challenges, be sure to head on over to handletheheat.com/challenge. Now, I actually use Red Star's platinum yeast to make the dough for these cinnamon rolls. This dough is super simple. It's my ultimate simple dough recipe, and you can use it to make everything from sandwich bread to dinner rolls to pizza, but today we're using it to make cinnamon rolls. I'm going to link to that recipe down below and list all of the ingredients down below as well, but be sure to check out that Ultimate Simple Dough blog post because it has tons of tips and tricks for how to work with yeast dough. Hundreds of you guys have actually made this recipe, even those of you who are intimidated by baking with yeast, and it's super foolproof and simple, so I think you're going to love it. Now, I've already got my dough rising, but we're going to get started with the first cinnamon roll flavor, which is sticky pecan. So in my saucepan, I'm going to make the sticky pecan topping. Add a stick of unsalted butter to the small saucepan set over medium heat and let that melt down completely. To the melted butter, add brown sugar and bring the mixture to a boil. You want to be stirring the entire time because you don't want the sugar to burn to the bottom of the pan. Once it comes to a boil, remove from heat. Next, I'm going to add some light corn syrup to that melted butter mixture. You could also use golden syrup if you don't have light corn syrup. This is going to help give it that caramely, sticky, gooey texture. And then give that a stir to combine. So next I'm going to pour this mixture into my pie pan. I like to use glass for sticky pecan buns so you can kind of see the sticky pecan on the bottom as it bakes. You just want to be sure to spray your pan with nonstick cooking spray so it doesn't get all sticky. So just pour that right on into your pan. And if you're using 2 pie pans, you want to make sure that they're about 8 to 9 inches in diameter, or you can use one 9 by 13 inch pan for this recipe. Now I'm just going to top it with the pecans. You want one even layer. So since the sticky pecan topping is so sweet and rich, I'm just going to add a little bit of brown sugar for the filling, some cinnamon, and a little bit more of the chopped pecans. I'm just going to give that a quick mix. So we've got the sticky pecan rolls prepped and ready to be assembled. Now let's move on to the other 2 flavors. We're doing banana bread and caramel apple. Now these 2 flavors have the same base for the filling, so let's go ahead and make that. I have some brown sugar, and I'm adding 2 tablespoons of ground cinnamon. Now that may seem like a lot, but we really want to make sure that these cinnamon rolls have that pack of cinnamon flavor. So I'm also going to add just a pinch of fine salt to really bring out the sweetness. And I'm going to give that a quick whisk. If you want to use less cinnamon, feel free to reduce it to just 1 tablespoon, but I really like the flavor of the 2 tablespoons. So next up, we're going to roll out the dough. I've got a batch of my Ultimate Simple Dough, and I'm just going to lightly dust my work surface with some flour so it won't stick. I always like to use one of these little flour powdered sugar shakers because it gives you a really even coating of flour so you don't end up with too much everywhere. And I'm just going to plop the dough down. This dough is super easy to work with. It's nice and soft and pliable. It's really a foolproof recipe, so if you're intimidated by yeast baking, I definitely recommend starting with this recipe. So I'm just going to roll this out into a 9 by 15 inch rectangle. As you're rolling out the dough, if it starts to spring back and not want to stretch out, just cover it and let it rest for about 5 minutes. What you're doing is actually allowing the strands of gluten to relax so that they can kind of pull out and form that beautiful rectangle we're looking for. So I actually like to turn the dough around so that the short sides are at the edge, because I think that makes it easier to roll up into really tight, beautiful cinnamon rolls that have those tight spirals. Okay, so I'm gonna brush my dough all over with melted butter. I always like to use a silicone pastry brush because you're not gonna get any of those little bristles of hair in your food, which we definitely don't want. I'll be sure to link to all of the supplies I use in these recipes down below. So brush all over. And we're not going to use quite as much melted butter for the sticky pecan rolls as we do for the other 2 flavors because that sticky pecan topping is already so rich. You wanna make sure to leave about a 1/2 inch border at the far side of your dough so that you can seal the ends when we go to roll these up. And then next I'm just going to sprinkle that filling that we just made all over. And this is going to turn ooey and gooey as it bakes, and it's going to be so good with this little crunch of the pecans. And actually, you can make this recipe ahead of time. You can pretty much make all cinnamon rolls ahead of time. I'll be sure to link to instructions on how to do that down below as well. Okay, so once the filling is all set, we're going to roll this up. Now, there are a few tricks to get really tight rolls. What you wanna do is go slowly and kind of use your fingers to start out with a nice little spiral. And then just kind of flip it out as you roll it up so that you end up with a tight shape. And then once you get to the end, stop when the end is at the very bottom so we kind of seal it together. And then I like to push the ends into each other so we get nice, thick, beautiful cinnamon rolls. Now, I have a trick for cutting the cinnamon rolls. I like to use a big, sharp knife. If you don't have a big, sharp knife, you can actually also use unflavored dental floss to kind of snip the rolls. What I like to do is start by cutting it directly in half. We're looking for 12 rolls. So I like to kind of just seesaw my way down. And then I've got 2 logs. So I'll cut each log into 2 again, right down the center. And then cut each piece into 3 additional pieces for 12. Okay, so once your dough is all cut, we're going to grab that pan that has that sticky pecan bottom already in it, and we're going to put 6 of the rolls in each pan. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next 2 flavors. All right, so I've already rolled out a batch of my ultimate simple dough for the next 2 flavors. I'm actually going to take this and basically do it in half. So I'm gonna do half banana bread, half salted caramel. So I'm going to actually brush lots of melted butter all over this. I'm using more melted butter in these 2 flavors than I did in the sticky pecan because I wanna make sure that this is ooey, gooey, and super flavorful and delicious. Okay, so I've got this all coated in melted butter. Now I'm going to sprinkle some cinnamon sugar all over. This is the cinnamon sugar that has a lot of cinnamon. Now again, you want to be sure to leave a border at the very end so it will seal up nicely. Okay, so now's the fun part. We're going to get creative with the flavors. I'm doing half of this caramel apple. So to that half, I'm actually going to add a little bit of nutmeg. I think nutmeg gives it that characteristic kind of apple pie flavor, and it smells so good. So next I have a Granny Smith apple that I've peeled, cored, and finely chopped. Granny Smith apples are perfect for baking because they're tart and they hold up their shape nicely. I'm just going to sprinkle that all over 1/2 of this piece of dough. And you want to be sure to cut small slices so that the cinnamon rolls still kind of assemble really nicely and evenly and tightly. Okay, and lastly for the caramel apple flavor, you're just going to drizzle a little bit of salted caramel all over. Now you can use homemade. I have a really easy recipe for homemade caramel, I'll link to down below, or you can use store-bought. I'm using Trader Joe's salted caramel today to kind of take a little cheat to make it a little bit easier. But you just want to drizzle that all over. This is going to be so good. Okay, so that's the caramel apple flavor. Now let's move on to the banana bread. I'm basically going to take slices of banana. You want to slice them thinly and kind of dot them along in rows. If you think about when you're rolling up the cinnamon roll, you want to give yourself some space so that you can roll it nicely and evenly. Okay, so now I'm going to roll this all up into one big log. All right, so I'm taking that same knife and using the same method to slice these up into 12 equal pieces. Okay, so now you can place your cinnamon rolls in your greased pans. Again, I'm using 2 pie pans, but you could also use one big 9x13-inch pan. Okay, so it's been about a ½ hour in my warm kitchen. That's all it took till these babies are nice and puffy and ready to bake. So I'm going to unwrap them and they're going to go in a 350-degree oven for about 25 minutes or until they're golden brown and bubbly. Okay, my last batch of cinnamon rolls just came out of the oven. The house smells absolutely incredible. Now, I always prefer to serve cinnamon rolls warm, fresh out of the oven, especially for the sticky pecan rolls. As those cool, that sticky pecan topping tends to harden, so you really want to be sure those are nice and warm when you serve them. Those are ready to go, but for my other 2 cinnamon rolls, I'm going to go ahead and ice them. So for the banana rolls, I'm actually going to make a maple topping. So in my bowl, I have some powdered sugar, and I'm just going to add some pure maple syrup. And give that a stir with a spatula. You should have a nice, thick, but smooth icing. Once your icing is combined, you can go ahead and just drizzle it all over the warm cinnamon rolls. Okay, the banana rolls are ready to go. So to finish off the apple rolls, I'm just going to drizzle them with some more of that salted caramel. Now I microwaved the caramel for about 10 seconds just so it's a little bit more thin and pourable. And that's it for the apple rolls. All of my cinnamon rolls are iced and ready to serve, and I'm going to take a taste of the sticky pecan. But before I do, be sure to check out all of the ingredients will be listed down below. And if you want to join in on my monthly baking challenges, then just go to handletheheat.com/challenge. So let's go ahead and take a taste. The dough is soft and fluffy, and the sticky pecan topping is so sweet and good. I really think you guys are gonna love these recipes. Have fun getting creative with the flavors. And thank you to Red Star Yeast for sponsoring this recipe video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more baking videos every single week. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.